Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from blustery Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up today, a special interview that Dan did.
That Frank is talking about but hasn't even heard
I
yet.
haven't heard it. It's so exciting. Tell us about it, Dan.
It's an interview with Tony Award-nominated playwright Robert Askins.
Huh.
He's the guy that wrote the smash hit on Broadway. It was a hit in London's West End.
Wow.
Hand to God.
Fantastic.
A version of which, a production of which I am currently in.
Wonderful.
Here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And he stopped by and we had a really interesting chat. The guy is fascinating.
Well, wonderful.
And the play touches on a lot of religious themes. He's very interested in religious themes, and so
It'll be very exciting to hear the interview and hopefully see the play.
Yeah.
So, all right.
It's a good one.
That'll be coming up later. In the meantime, Dan.
Yeah.
Somebody had a birthday. Somebody's birthday in this room near you. Somebody's birthday. I don't know who. Somebody's birthday.
It's not yours. You're just not till
it was Benedict. Pope Benedict the 16th's birthday.
What?
This last week. The day after Easter is when they celebrate it because his birthday actually fell on Easter this year.
That proves that he's the real pope. That proves it.
He's not. He resigned the popehood.
He's an emeritus pope.
His popiness was relinquished.
I wonder if he could, because he's Pope Emeritus. I wonder if he could jump out and pope, just like pope a little bit here and there.
Well, what does a pope? What's the job requirements? Like, what is the job description?
I don't know
for a pope. Like, he's God's vicar on earth.
I just want him to pope a little bit every now and then. I just want him to poke his head out and pope.
He doesn't vicar.
He doesn't pope anymore
at all. Okay. Well, anyway, he turned 90 years old.
Wow.
Had a party.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that could like the range of age that he could be with that face is like anywhere from like 70 to 1,000.
Yeah, and it's been that way for like 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's one of those people.
He's one of those guys that looked old when he was 19. He looked like he was 87 when he was 19.
He probably looked like he was like 20 when he was 45. And then he hit 50.
And then he just flipped.
Just fell apart.
Just flipped. Just went all the way to the other side of it.
No, I don't know about that.
He smoked 2 cigarettes when he was 42 and became 90.
All fell apart. His party attended by a bunch of people from Bavaria. His home,
sure.
Right? A lot of representatives, including the Prime Minister of Bavaria.
Ooh.
Bavaria had a Prime Minister.
Yeah, are they allowed to do that?
How does their political system work? I don't know.
Seems sketchy.
Nonetheless, lots of dignitaries, people in Bavarian garb.
Dirndls and lederhosen abound.
His brother, Monsignor George Ratzinger, was also there.
His brother's a Monsignor?
Can you believe that?
That's a weird family business.
And let me tell you, in the photo, and sort of the main photo with the article, they're sitting outside. So when the Monsignor has his really dark sunglasses on with his Monsignor robes and all hat and whatnot, one doesn't think much about it. But then when one begins looking through all of the photos, including a bunch inside and some more outdoors and la la la, and the man never takes off his sunglasses, you have to start to wonder what he's hiding. But anyway,
apparently evil is also the family business.
I think so, actually. Well, anyway, the article that I read made hay over the fact that Benedict enjoyed a beer.
Oh dear!
In his picture, he actually looks like a small child with both hands on this beer. He's like holding it up to his face,
drinking it like as a baby does a bottle.
And also some fun details here. He, I guess, apparently he was. they noticed him admiring a gift basket whose goodies included pretzels. My goodness. This man, boy, living it up at 90.
Yeah.
Pretzels and beer.
Some Prada shoes and a nice...
Probably, I assume some Oompa music with all these Bavarians around. I mean, come on.
Cowbells aplenty.
There really was no reason to bring this up. I just love... Benedict is one of those characters, you know, like...
I've missed him.
Yeah. He was just so...
He's the person that, like... He's supposed to be the devil, but instead they cast him, like central casting went the other way with him. Tried to put him in the nice guy outfit.
It just didn't work. That's why he had to resign.
They had to fire him and cast somebody else.
Yeah, who lovable.
Right. Happy grandpa.
Yeah.
Frankly, these two popes need a sitcom. I don't know how. We've said it before. I don't know how it hasn't happened. Talk about... Yeah, I mean, you got like your Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau perfection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Perfection.
Yeah. Walter Matthau, of course, being old Pope.
Benedict being angry Pope.
Yeah.
And then in comes
Jolly
Francis, who's all nice and everything, but a little fastidious and likes to keep the Vatican cleaner than...
Yeah, except in this version, I think the grumpy one is the fastidious one.
Yeah, we've gone Laurel and Hardy on this and sort of reversed it around. He's the... Yeah, happy-go-lucky Pope comes in, and grumpy Pope's like, you left dishes in the sink again. only mit ein German accent.
Yeah.
Why? You always leave, and I have to vacuum everything.
Yeah.
And then they have sex with each other.
Because you know that's what was really going on with The Odd Couple, especially the TV version.
Of course it was. Of course they were having gay sex with each other all the time. They were constantly cock-blocking each other with women.
Right.
Why?
Well, that was part of the facade. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to...
Because neither of them wants to have sex with a woman.
Right. Their beard. They had to have their beard, though.
Yeah, so they'd have the dates. They'd ruin the dates.
Right.
They'd feign anger at each other and go have great makeup sex. It's the perfect setup.
Yeah. We are talking about Jack Lemmon here.
Yeah. Come on.
Something like a hot.
Nobody's perfect. You remember the end of that movie?
He was into that role. Actually, he received a lot of criticism. Like, there were a lot of people who were like, Jack Lemmon enjoyed that role a little too much. If you know what I mean. Of course, the guy was straight. But
yeah, well, whatever. But he did like a nice chiffon dress.
He got into the role.
All right. Well, since we're on the Pope bandwagon, I'm gonna keep us in Rome. Because when in Rome, meet the Pope.
Yeah.
Or don't.
Pretzels and beer with the Pope.
Here's the thing. So the the Trump administration has been talking about a trip that he's taking to Rome.
Okay.
And for the longest time, nobody was mentioning this religious guy that lives there. Like, it was just going to be a diplomatic mission, I guess, to the country of Italy.
Okay.
Without meeting with the Pope, which the last, 11 presidents have all met with the Pope at some point or other.
Okay.
Well, here's the dealio. I mean, I think we can all see now that if there's something that drives Donald Trump more than anything else in the world, much more than money, his drive for money, if it was for money, then he would not have started his stupid steak company or whatever.
Right.
The thing that drives that man, the thing that drove him to run for president, the thing that drove him to win the presidency at all costs, revenge.
Right.
That man will hold a grudge like nobody's business.
Right.
Well, Pope Francis said shit against Trump, if you recall.
Yeah,
about a year ago. He was like, anyone who would build a wall instead of building bridges is full of shit and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And Trump got furious about it.
Right. As he does. Because his other thing is his ego.
Right. Yes.
His fragile ego.
His baby, his ego as tiny as his little hands. Well, Spicer has now announced, probably behind Trump's back, that they're totally looking into, that they're reaching out to have a meeting with the Pope. Of course, the Vatican then said, we haven't heard anything yet, but now they got to.
Okay.
So that's story number one. But really, I'm just using that as a launching point for story number two, because it gets me to talk about something else. Story number two is that recently, Bill O'Reilly was also in Rome.
Yes.
Met the Pope.
Yeah.
Basically on the day that he got fired from his job at Fox News.
Right. Hours before.
Yeah. No evidence that they actually spoke. No evidence that the Pope actually knew who the fuck he was.
Right, because the picture I saw of this...
Is it this picture
it
right
looks
here?
like, yeah, that's the one. This is just kind of a big group meeting. This is not he didn't have a hearing or whatever you call it. An audience.
No,
with
he
the Pope.
definitely did not have an audience. He was out in the St. Peter's Square, but in the special part of St. Peter's Square, like in the celebrity part of St. Peter's Square,
the VIP,
right?
VIP room, back behind some velvet rope.
Yeah, you're gonna get a handshake if you're in this section of the VIP.
Is that a thing?
I think so.
You show up at a certain time.
Yeah, you show up. I mean,
the bouncer lets you in, and you get to meet the Pope.
The Pope does the whole Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, St. Peter's Square opens up, and everybody can pile into St. Peter's Square.
Lovely. Yeah.
But then there's the cordoned off section where you get to meet him, and so Bill O got to meet him right as he was fired from Fox News of all places.
Yeah.
For being a D-bag.
Yeah. D-bag is also getting tens of millions of dollars in the firing.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was
disgusting.
their cash cow.
Yeah. And to get rid of him, they're having to give back a lot of the cash.
Right.
They're okay.
Here you go.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Bye-bye.
How is he, of all the smarmy assholes in the universe, how is he the cash cow?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, the guy was unwatchable. It was just, skin crawl.
Not to millions of Americans.
Apparently not, but man.
Literally, 4 million, he had a 4 million share for the longest time for his stupid show.
4 million viewers?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
4 million share would be a lot.
Yeah, well, that would be
like the whole world.
Yes. I meant viewers. Whatever. TV lingo. Anyways, yeah, he had so, his consolation prize, at least he can cry into his millions of dollars and remember that time he shook the Pope's hand. He's a Catholic, ostensibly. So.
Is he? Oh, O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So maybe now he'll turn to the priesthood, where he can sexually harass people all he wants.
Well,
and they won't fire him; they'll just shuffle him to another diocese.
He might as well have a vow of abstinence. Apparently, nobody will have sex with him. So anyway, moving on.
Well, it's you can have sex with Bill O'Reilly, or you can make millions of dollars in a settlement. I'll take the millions.
Yeah, come on, Bill.
Billo.
Come over here, Bill.
Billo, buddy.
You can sexually harass me all you want.
Yeah. Come and try and, except that he's not at Fox anymore. We'll see where, somebody will pick him up. InfoWars. Alex Jones will get him. The Blaze will pick him up for sure.
No, I doubt those two get along at all.
No, of course not.
No,
former colleagues. Yeah. Him and Glenn Beck.
Yeah, both fired from the same network.
Right. It's perfect. That'll be
also a sitcom
where Fox News people go to die.
2 former anchors fired from the same network.
Now roommates. Oh, good Lord.
So, Dan, this is kind of a follow-up story. Not really, because it's a completely separate story, but it's related to a story that I brought up last week.
Okay.
About the, the Alabama, quote-unquote, megachurch.
Oh, yeah.
That is going to get its own police department.
Yeah.
Well, something similar is happening down in Dallas, Texas.
Oh.
Not so much police department level type stuff, but security forces. Right? Like security teams.
Wow.
And because apparently there's this real need at churches to defend themselves from who knows what.
What more dangerous place could there be than your church?
Nonetheless, the story that I read about this sort of opens up with the story of a predominantly black church in the Dallas area.
Sure.
That was in a neighborhood that, had some crime issues. And so the pastor wanted to have a couple security guards. Found out somewhere in this process that they're actually running afoul of the law. You can't just have a security guard.
Yeah, you have to register those bastards.
Yeah, exactly. And you, as the organization that has the security guard out there, you have to get this letter of authorization from the state and pay some filing fees.
Sure.
La. Okay? So they're running afoul of this whole thing. Well, they feel like their religious freedom is being infringed upon. That they should be able to just do whatever the fuck they want because they're a church.
Right.
And there's actually a quote. We didn't know we needed a letter. I was kind of surprised. Usually churches are exempt because we're a religious organization. Yeah, you can just do whatever the fuck you want. That's the sense these guys have.
Yeah, the feeling among them is, wait, regulation of any kind applies to us in any way? How dare you, sir?
So nonetheless, they found a sympathetic ear at the state legislature.
Of course they
Representative Matt Rinaldi.
Oh, yeah. Repman Rinaldi.
Yeah.
I know him.
He's pushing House Bill 421. That would change the requirements for church security.
What? They can't get a fucking letter? How hard is this?
Well, here's the deal. Because not only do you need the letter.
Yeah.
Okay? The way things currently stand, for a private, for a letter of authority for volunteer security teams, places of worship must pay a $400 fee and an annual $225 renewal charge. Volunteers must submit to background checks and training, but cannot carry guns. Only off-duty law enforcement members or security guards can carry firearms. Insurance coverage is not required. This, however, is unacceptable to the religious community. And so Rinaldi's bill would actually get rid of the $400 fee and the renewal charge and exempt churches from training, licensing, and background checks.
Oh, my God.
And allow volunteers to carry guns.
Oh, my God.
But churches would have to take responsibility for making sure they are licensed.
Oh, my God. Well, I hope everybody in the churches feels a lot safer now. Welcome to how safe church is, with people running around with guns protecting you.
And so they were already allowing these volunteer security teams to be functioning at like a level of training and whatnot that was much lower than what a private security company would have to like.
And let me tell you something. I know people who have worked private security.
Yeah.
That level of training, that benchmark is already pretty low.
Well, I think a lot of it really depends on whether you're allowed to carry a gun or not.
No, I know guys who are like allowed to carry guns and everything, but they're getting like $9 an hour. They're not getting paid well, so they don't. Yeah. Well, you don't get the cream of the crop.
Nonetheless, this should defend these churches, and in the event of an actual incident, it's always good to have sort of lesser trained security folk who are just going to open fire at anything that's moving. And who also don't really have a level of training needed to interface with the police when the police finally do show up.
Right, yeah.
So
it's great on all counts.
Yeah. This is an awesome bill.
You know what? I'm going to do a TGIA public service announcement and just say that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the South and you go to a church and you're an atheist, that's why you listen to the show. But you go to church because, mom wants you to go to Easter service or something.
Right.
Don't start a ruckus. You will get shot. Do not start a ruckus. It is too dangerous.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then there's just a wonderfully sort of Texan line here.
Yeah.
Made me chuckle. As a guy with a concealed handgun license, if I walk into Luby's, okay, do you know what Luby's is?
No.
It's just this restaurant chain.
Okay.
It just made me chuckle because I'm like, God damn this guy. If I walk into Luby's and somebody attempts to rob or do something else, I'm free under the law to defend myself and others. Why is it that under a church, they say I need more licensing?
Yeah, that's... I don't think there was ever a more Texas statement made. I know. I'm amazed you didn't end
the reference of Luby's. Also, I believe Luby's was the one that was shot up, like really seriously. Like he might be making a really strong reference here.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Because I remember back in the 90s, there was this Luby's in like Waco. Not Waco. What's one of those like North Texas towns? Anyway, got just shot the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? Like big time.
I'm amazed you didn't end that quote by just yelling things like, "Remember the Alamo, the stars at night are big and bright. Don't mess with Texas." Yeah. That is some Texas right there.
Yeah, it is.
All right, I'm going to move from Texas over to Alabama, where we made
back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alabama, Texas.
Absolutely.
Alabama, Texas.
We made we made a reference, I think last week, to like the fact that recently the governor had to resign ahead of some crazy sex scandal stuff.
Oh yeah.
And also, you know, and not for nothing, but it was only 10 months ago that their House Speaker was forced to resign in disgrace also.
Wow. What's going on in Alabama?
Well, apparently being a Republican doesn't make you the paragon of morality that we all thought that it did.
I don't know, Dan.
We were all so convinced that being a member of the religious right made you impeachable, moralistically speaking.
Unimpeachable.
Well, I guess now impeachable. You're right. I was saying unimpeachable, but now
impeachable. Fully highly.
Very, very impeachable. To wit, the latest in the downfall of all of Alabama's leadership. If you recall, Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, Roy Moore.
Oh boy,
our favorite guy.
Boy, that's a name that just keeps coming up.
Well, it won't ever again.
Did he die?
No.
Uh-oh.
He was removed from the bench. You'll recall that he was already removed from the bench,
right,
temporarily,
and then got reelected or something, right?
Well, okay.
How does it work?
Here's the history. Yeah. Here's the history. He was elected to Supreme Court to Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
A while back.
Okay.
Then he was removed from the bench.
Oh no.
So he ran again. and won. And then, now this time, he pissed a lot of people off because he basically ordered all of these smaller courts. What do they call them? The lower courts, anyway. He ordered them all to not obey the same-sex marriage ruling of the United States Supreme Court. He basically said... He said in his official capacity, he ordered Alabama's probate judges to ignore the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on marriage equality. This might crumpled a few noses.
Oh?
It ruffled some feathers.
Oh.
And some of those feathers are, federal courts and people in charge. Anyway, so he was temporarily suspended pending a hearing or pending a something or other. So he's been suspended for a while. Well, the Alabama Supreme Court just upheld the decision that removed Mr. Moore, and so he cannot run again. He is
officially out.
Done. I think because of his age. His age has now precluded him from coming back. So he cannot run for office again.
Oh, Grumpy Pants. What is he going to do?
Fox News has an opening. I'm guessing he's going to show up there.
I just hope he's like, been prudent with his money and, taking advantage of the 401k program and at the Alabama Supreme Court.
No,
because
I would not be surprised if we saw like more and more on Fox News or something. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he showed up there.
Well,
he's perfect for them.
Yeah, he is. He can have Tucker's spot. What's his spot? What's his name?
He can have
the guy with the bow tie.
Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson, because Tucker Carlson's getting O'Reilly's spot.
Oh,
that's the rumor I saw.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter.
So he can have the 9:00.
O'Reilly or Fox News has like 7 people left, so they'll just throw him on whenever.
They need to start getting more women in some of these spots.
They keep sexually harassing them until they leave. It's a problem.
I know. Even like Greta Van Susteren couldn't
hack it.
Yeah,
because everywhere she turned,
say it couldn't hack it, because the woman was being. It was an awful work environment.
Right, exactly.
That nobody should be able to
Right.
But even her.
Yeah, exactly.
She seems tough as nails.
That woman couldn't turn a corner without someone calling her sweet tits or something. Anyway, what do you got?
Oh, boy, it must be just a shitty organization.
You think?
All right, Dan.
You think so? Roger Ailes, the head of the organization, gets fired eventually because he's the one that's doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be institutional at this point.
All right, Dan.
What?
Department of Defense.
DOD.
It is official. Humanism has been recognized as a
enemy of the state.
No, as a belief code, belief system, whatever you want to call it, that the chaplaincy is to include.
Is it required to respect?
Respect, include, provide services for, have humanist chaplains, the whole bang, the whole kit and caboodle. That's what I was trying to think of.
That's probably very good.
Yeah, they've gone so far as changing the faith group code.
Yeah,
right, which was the set of rules that I guess
it was a code. There was a code for each faith group. They had like a little.
Oh, is that what it was? The faith group code.
Yeah.
Okay. Nonetheless, it's now the faith and belief code.
Ah,
so it's no longer valuing group affiliation.
Right.
They're going to be, when they collect up these data points, they're going to be looking at non-believers, humanists. What were some of the other ones? Non-theists. There was a whole list of.
I saw this list. I think it had like heathens and deists on it.
Deist was on it. I don't remember heathen.
I saw heathen. Heathen
Let's
was on
see.
it.
No, here it is. Deist, no religion. Humanist, no response.
Well, they added.
Oh, and then it says and others.
There was
so
like
100. Comprehensive.
There was like 100
list.
different things.
Okay, so nonetheless, they've done a nice little. I don't know if it's called an overhaul, but they've really adapted to the realities of American life at this point.
It's interesting because this does. At first blush, it doesn't seem like this would be that big a deal. Like, who cares if if your employer recognizes whatever your religious beliefs are? But when you could die in your employ, and they could just throw you a sort of non-denominational Christian ceremony, funeral, which is what they did for anyone who didn't qualify for one of their sort of standard things.
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Well, this is actually interesting because another article that I read this week that I chose not to go into actually had to do with some new polling, some new research on the number of the actual real numbers of atheists in the United States.
Oh, shit. I was going to do that story, and then I lost track of it. Yeah.
And so,
that was amazing.
Basically, and I'm not going to get into, the methodology that they used, but they did a new poll, and they were able to, compare their numbers and again, I don't fully understand how they did it, but their findings are that like if you look at like the Pew reports and whatnot,
right,
that show like maybe like upwards of 12% of the country. I think was the number.
I didn't even think it was that much.
Maybe 10%. I can't remember.
Are you saying are atheists or
are sort of fall into this like non-believer, unaffiliated group?
Okay,
right. Basically atheist, but like atheist, agnostic, non-believer. Like
right.
it's not just atheist,
right?
And I think that comes in around 10 to 12%, something like that. They're saying that it could be at least double.
Well, what they're saying,
like 26% was the number I saw.
What I read was that it was like very likely that it was over 15% atheist.
Yeah.
Because when you don't use that word, that word is the thing that people are afraid of. But when you just say, "Hey, do you believe in a God?"
Right.
Or do you believe that there is no God?
This was a little. We may be talking about two separate things.
No, we're talking about the same thing. I mean, what they did.
I got into the methodology of the thing a little bit, and it wasn't like it was comparative surveys they ran. Anyway, this is in the weeds of how this thing was working,
right?
And I don't want to go there.
But the thing, but the thing is, that it's the word atheist that becomes the poison that people don't want to cop to,
right?
And when you ask in a different way.
Right.
It turns out that they can project with what they claimed was like 90-something% certainty that over
26% atheist or non-believer was like 0.8. Was where they were, so 80%.
Yeah, and
certainty.
but it was like 98% certainty that over 15% or something like that.
And so what this really boils down to is the importance of coming out.
And being willing to just say it. Say the word out loud.
Because let me tell you, when the gay community finally said, you know what, repercussions be damned. Family repercussions, problems with my career, whatever, this is more important. Me being true and honest about who I am is more important. That's when the gay rights movement really took off.
Well, I also think we need to encourage people.
It's the numbers. It's people knowing an atheist. It's people knowing But
I also think that there's something to be said for finding a way to encourage people to feel safe saying that word. You know what I mean? Because there are lots of atheists who don't even realize that that's what they are.
Right. But that's my point. With the importance of coming out is that the more people that have come out, the more times you see somebody at your office or in your neighborhood or wherever, or on TV, wherever it is, who is owning it, and they're still okay.
Yeah.
Right? They're still alive. And maybe there's still a little bit of stigma, but it's more just kind of everybody starts getting more used to it.
Yeah.
Right? And there's going to be a critical mass at which point people just feel safe dealing with the stigma.
Yeah.
And then it snowballs a little bit more, and then there's really no more stigma because a quarter of the country agrees with you.
Right.
And the safety in that, like the safety in being gay at this point, when the numbers are nowhere near that.
No, like
not even close.
Gay is less than 5% of the populace or something like that? Or 8 or something?
Somewhere in the single digits.
Single digits.
Right? And
way more non-believers than there are gay folks.
Yeah,
and look at how powerful the gay people have become.
Unbelievably powerful.
There's
we got what we wanted.
You got parades.
Yeah.
Everything.
I know.
Everything.
We snuck it in right at the perfect time. Can you believe it?
You took down
gay marriage would be happening right now, let me tell you.
The gays took down Roy Moore. The great and powerful Roy Moore.
Nonetheless.
Yeah.
That's out there.
Yeah.
But also we kind of stayed on that for a minute. I wasn't planning on going there. But this whole thing, it brought up something that's been on my mind for the last few weeks. Just something that's been kind of festering a little bit.
Okay.
Which is, in my mind, there's this question of being a non-believer in the military, putting your life on the line, right? For hopefully this bigger cause that you truly believe in, right? But what does it mean to die? What does it really mean to die for a nation's cause? Right? In this world, as I wouldn't put myself out there.
I mean, depending, like, there are wars that I think need to be fought.
Occasionally.
And there are wars that I would conscientiously object to.
Yeah, it's a case by case for me, too.
But Lord knows, if Donald Trump wanted to send me or my loved one out because he fucking wants to raise his poll numbers, and he doesn't give a shit about the actual results, fuck you.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, because, I mean, I was watching something World War II-y, and, there was, like, a chaplain, sort of praying with the men before they went into, got on the plane to go over to Normandy.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, holy crap, like these guys have some solace in the belief that they're, like, maybe there's some sort of afterlife, there's some sort of God, there's some sort of something that's looking out for them, right? But to not have that, I think atheists being out in large numbers is really important, because war becomes a lot more critical and a lot more important if there's no afterlife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
and there's no God on your side.
Right.
Right? Like, now you better have a real existential threat to your way of life, period, and you believe in your country's cause.
Right.
Period.
Although that's not how military people think. But some of them might. I don't know. The whole God is on our side thing should terrify everyone. It should. Like, whether or not you're a theist, you should look at that and go, ooh, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, lest one need reminding, the belt buckles on the Nazi uniforms said Gott mit uns.
Yeah.
God is with us.
Right.
So come on. Anytime somebody says that, people's hackles should be raised. Well, I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
To Benedictine College. Which is obviously a Catholic college.
Is that obvious?
Well, it is now because I said it out loud.
That seems obvious.
Benedictine College has had a very popular class, but it's controversial, and they've had to do something about it.
No.
It was a yoga class. And there has been concern.
Oh, no.
Concern. Yoga has created some... Yoga as created. This is the president of the college, Stephen Minnis.
Yeah.
Yoga as created has some potential for Eastern mysticism, which has caused concern among members of the Catholic Church.
As it should, actually.
Oh, terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
No, it should. It is a competing, like, it's a spiritual practice.
Right. Well, what is one to do? It's so popular. It makes the kids all healthy.
Right.
Well, you and I have discussed this before in terms of, like...
They did bending and stretching only?
What's the solution? They just changed the name. It's now stretching and breathing class.
Perfect. And they don't say namaste or ring bells.
Let me tell you something. These guys have been listening to our show.
Yeah.
They've been listening to we came up with that years ago. All the kids and all the parents are all worried about their children doing yoga, so we just said call it stretching class.
Yeah.
Stretching and breathing class.
Stretching and breathing. And some balance.
You couldn't name a class a stupider name, and yet solved it.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, they could work in some Catholic stuff. Instead of namaste at the end, you say some Latin.
You say amen. You say, yeah, exactly. Yeah. In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
What is namaste supposed to mean again? I see you or something?
Okay, so Americans who say it, like spiritual Americans, say that it means the light in me recognizes the light in you.
Oh, Jesus.
I like to say that I looked it up.
Right.
That's not what it means.
Oh, no.
And I went to India. And, I don't think that the stewardess on the airplane meant to say the light in me recognizes the light in you as I was deplaning. It was just like namaste, namaste. No, it was bye-bye.
Namaste.
You gonna go?
Namaste.
Namaste. I just wanted to ask you namaste. Could I just get a namaste?
Namaste.
Namaste.
Oh, boy, Dan.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything that you'd like to talk to us about, if you attend a regular bending and stretching class and wish that it didn't have that Eastern mysticism.
Oh, terrible Eastern mysticism.
Which is
the worst.
Which, I mean, as I've said before on the show, when I was in India, I asked multiple people, and they all were like, no, there's no religion to this. It's just exercise, which just blew my mind. Anyway, if you'd have anything you'd like to say about any of the things we've discussed on today's show, you can do so by writing into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
It is indeed. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
And while there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It's a closed group, but we'll let you in.
You betcha.
So, Dan.
Yeah.
Who is this?
E.W. Jackson.
And who the hell is he? This is a new one. I don't know who this guy is at all.
I'm looking up his picture right now.
Well, I'm looking at a picture.
Yeah?
So he's at a podium.
He's a
flag
pastor, Earl Walker E.W. Jackson Sr., American conservative politician, Christian minister, and lawyer in Virginia.
Oh.
He's
Whoa.
Oh, he was an unsuccessful Republican Party nominee for lieutenant governor of that state.
Okay.
He's got some opinions on how the world works and what there is.
And he has some shocking revelations.
Yes.
All right, well, let's listen.
This guy could erupt into an Islamic jihadist, it seems to me, at any moment if he's walking around the street telling women what they can and cannot wear. Folks, religion is one of the most dangerous things in the world. Religion is. Now, some people say, exactly, that's why Christianity is so dangerous. Christianity is not a religion, folks. Christianity is not a religion. Christianity is a relationship of God's people with Him as Father, Jesus as Lord. It is a living relationship. We are indwelt by the Holy Spirit, and we live and breathe and have our being in Him. It's not religion, it's reality.
Oh, my God.
Here's what I'd like to ask EW.
No.
So you're not going to be fighting for the religious rights of Christians anymore.
No.
Right?
Because
we can let go of that fight.
It's not a religion.
It's not a religion. You don't have any religious rights.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about the rights of Christians.
It's not a relationship, Dan.
It's reality.
It's a relationship.
It's
a way of life, really.
More
than being anything religions.
Because there's nothing more dangerous than
just
religion.
awful.
Religions are super dangerous. Thank God he's not part of a religion. And therefore, his institution needs to pay taxes, doesn't it?
Let's do it. Let's get him signed up.
Or if it doesn't need to pay taxes, at very least he needs to report all of his finances.
Yeah.
Because it's not a religion.
Right. Yeah, he can. Okay, maybe let him still be a nonprofit, but you have to go through all the
nonprofit stuff,
all the nonprofit nonsense.
Someone should tell the IRS he's not part of his. Isn't a religion.
Well, send him the clip.
Right? It's perfect. It's perfect. Well, we had some folks write into us,
indeed,
and call into us.
Yeah.
Phil wrote in. You and I had talked a little bit about places that are that would for secular reflection.
Yes.
Because and
museums, libraries.
Yeah. Places that we can sort of experience the grandeur that we would feel in a cathedral or a Mormon ward house.
Yeah.
Phil wrote in to say, "Dear team," I guess that's us, "the desire for places of secular worship that you alluded to on your last episode reminded me of my favorite book, Religion for Atheists by Alain Botton. An amazing attempt to lay a framework for atheist spiritual activities. I love you guys. Thank you for everything."
Yeah, we talked about that book early in the series.
Yeah, like when it first came out or whatever. Maybe.
Yeah. I remember that now.
Well, neither of us read it.
I think I read it.
Did you read it?
I think I did.
Okay, I didn't read it.
It's probably sitting on my bookshelf at home.
Yeah, I think I do object. We need a better word than spirituality.
Yes.
Because I don't know what the fuck that word means, and every time I ask, I get a different answer.
Just like we need a different word from soul. We don't need the word soul. Soul is a bad, like, it has all this other, but like there is a human soul. It's just not eternal. And it's not separate from the human, from our
bodies.
Our bodies and our condition, but there's something that is deep within us, deep in our psyche, right? That is ponderous, and that's how do you even describe what it is? But there's something there, again, not eternal,
right? And also, I feel like there's something. I feel like it's all. There's no need to separate that sense of connection that we feel to our fellow humans,
right.
That sense of awe at the universe.
Right.
There's no need to separate that from our brains.
No.
That lives in our brains,
and that's fine.
There's no
good.
There's no ghosty thing sort of wandering around.
No.
That goes on after we die or whatever. But it's brains. We've got these great brains, and they have all of this stuff in it.
And I would love it if there was a word like soul and a word like spirituality that could sum these things up without all the baggage that
without
comes with those
the
words.
Religious sort of baggage. Yeah.
But anyway, great. Yeah. Alain Botton.
Yeah.
Alain Botton.
Blah, 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 blah. Do you want to play the voicemail?
Yeah, let's take a listen. This is apropos of nothing that we've brought up in the show recently. And it's really just a question from a listener. And so I'm just going to play it.
Yeah.
Hi, Frank and Dan. This is John from West Georgia, drunk again. And I really appreciate y'all's podcast. I really enjoy it. And I was hoping that somebody in the atheist community, maybe that could hear this, or maybe that you or Frank and Dan might know of any kind of alternative to AA for people that don't believe in bullshit. And I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John. And I think the bullshit he's talking about there is sort of that belief in a higher power. Submitting to a higher power
it's like
thing.
the first rule, the first of the 12 steps or something.
I think the first one is admitting that you have a problem.
Oh, okay, fine.
And then after that, it's 2, 3, 4. It's early on.
It's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And it's nonsense, and it sucks. Like, people without a belief in a higher power.
Yeah.
There's
the thing about AA.
And AA tries to make space for it by saying,
right.
you interpret this however you want to interpret this.
It's going to be the group that you get in with.
Right.
But also, it sucks because AA is the organization that's basically everywhere.
Yeah.
That people can access for some support in changing their relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
I.e. abstinence from alcohol. But nonetheless, there are other groups. There's Rational Recovery.
Yeah, is that a thing? Yeah, I don't know much about it.
I don't know much about it either. But there are other things, and you have some stuff pulled up, Dan.
Well, I don't have some stuff pulled up.
I thought you were going to.
Point of fact, I started to look some stuff up, but wasn't successful in the brief moment that I was doing it. But
I would think of maybe like the secular therapist. Project.
Yes.
Would probably have some resources.
I think so. And so check in with them. But what I wanted to do was put a call out to our listeners and just say, especially if you have a history of addiction, it would be great if you found a group that worked for you.
Right.
Because I don't want to just spout the names of groups.
Right.
I would love to hear from people who either for themselves or for a loved one or whatever.
So this is kind of a community group call. Like, we're calling out to the community.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And we'd love to get the word out about some good groups that might be helpful for people struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. Here's the other thing about AA. The research has shown that like the 12-step thing, not the best way to handle this. There's new research that's talking about that there are much better modalities for handling addiction.
Oh, really?
But I don't know what they are. I am not educated on this. Someone out there is much more educated than we are. So this is our call. Please write into us, podcast@thankodI'matheist.com, and let us know what you got. And thanks, John, for putting the question out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lars wrote into us. You recall that we did a story about the lady in Sweden who wanted to be a midwife, but in Sweden, part of that is doing abortions, right?
Yeah.
And so she objected to that and then couldn't get hired.
Right. Because it's part of the job description. She's refusing to do the whole job description.
Right. Although I think we reported that she was fired or something along those lines, that she lost a job.
I don't remember that.
Well, here's what Lars said. Thank you for an immensely entertaining podcast. I thought I should fill in some missing pieces in your coverage of the Swedish midwife. She didn't lose her job. She never had it in the first place. She arguably well aware of what the role of a midwife entails in Sweden, went through a multi-year education to graduate. She got her education supported by the Swedish education system, i.e. no tuition fees.
Oh, wow.
Which, in Sweden you can get nice and educated for free.
Right.
And then she applied as a midwife and was turned down due to her stated unwillingness to do the frickin' job. This is an interesting point that I did not know. She's economically supported by the Alliance Defending Freedom, which is an American group, who's also picking up the substantial legal tab for this adventure. She's taking this to the European Human Rights Court after losing the Swedish legal system.
Oh, boy.
So she's sponsored by an American far-right Christian anti-abortion organization.
Great.
Of course she is. Well, thanks for giving us a little bit of that insight, Lars. Whom I assume is from Sweden.
The name like Lars.
You'd think.
Oh, yeah. So, good on us exporting our nonsense.
We
can't just leave, Scandinavia alone.
No.
Well enough alone.
No.
With their...
Everything's so good in America, we got to make sure that everybody else gets a piece of that action.
Ooh. Wow.
Yikes.
All right.
Well, do we have anybody to thank?
We do. We have some new Patreon patrons. New patrons.
Patrons.
On Patreon.
I am Patron.
Anyway, we have one new faithful listener, Christina, and one new beatified, Janet.
Oh,
Thank you, ladies, for your support.
It's so amazing.
It is amazing.
That people are willing to do this.
And of course, the show is still brought to you by James.
Our Lord and
Savior.
Our dear, dear Lord and Savior, James. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy... Not Spirit! Brain. The Holy Brain. Amen.
Amen. So, Dan, you had a conversation with someone.
Yeah, here we go. Robert Askins.
Conversed.
Robert Askins. He's a fascinating fella. Former He used to preach. I don't know. He had a preachy thing happening.
All right.
He's got a tattoo on his wrist of a church.
Oh my.
A little iconographic thing.
Okay, well,
and here we go.
I'm gonna press play.
Well, I'm here with Robert Askins, Tony Award nominated amazing playwright Robert Askins. You're like famous and shit. Do you realize that?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like playwright famous is a different kind of famous.
Well, yeah, you're not going to be stopped on the street, probably.
No, not at all.
Which is good, probably.
You also, like, people will be at your show and not know it's you. And so you can, like, go into the bathroom and hear him talking shit. So that's really valuable as
that's
a
awesome,
as
actually.
a creative human.
That's some sneaky
yeah, it's really
shit
good.
right there.
And then you, like, whisper in their ear, I'm the playwright.
I wrote that shit.
Fuck you. You put your finger in their ear.
Right? Yeah.
That's how you get nominated for a Tony.
That's how you get it. It's a cutthroat world out there.
That's what's up.
Guys, it's tough.
Right.
So here's the thing. I've had like, you know, important religious people and important scientists on my show, and I've neglected the arts entirely, which is some bullshit because I'm like
awful
in the arts and stuff.
Well, I'm happy to break your artist cherry.
I know you're totally popping it right now.
Yeah, man,
you're blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You wrote the play Hand to God, which is just
real story.
All kinds of acclaim all over the country.
Yeah, man.
Being produced every which where.
Yeah, the struggle's real.
Probably, I mean, I would say, now you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The best version of it is probably the one that's playing at Salt Lake Acting Company right now.
Absolutely, 100%.
Like, you've never seen a better version of it than the one that's here,
Not
right?
at all, man. No. It's almost like I dreamed you all.
Right? So anyway, listeners, some of you know because I've talked about it that I am playing a role in Rob's show here in Salt Lake City. So that's our connection. That's how we know
absolutely.
each other. Are you pleased with what's happened with your show?
Absolutely, man. Do you mean a larger sense or a smaller sense?
I mean all of the senses, man. I think it's amazing. Like I write a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
What is it? How did it feel when you found out your show was going to Broadway, man?
That was actually sort of a relief.
Yeah.
Because, I think I actually don't know what people think getting those big calls is like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's not like
that's why I had to ask, because I have no idea what that call sounds like.
It's not like you send it off to like some anonymous human.
To Broadway.
Right, exactly. And then Broadway's right. Oh, you're famous now. Broadway.
Get Mr. Askins the standard rich and famous contract,
your
please.
limo's here. You'll now move into the plaza. It's not like that. It's like it's a struggle, right?
Yeah.
The producers start coming. You get it. You get the good review. And
you had the show off Broadway.
We had it off.
Right.
Our original run was in a 78-seat theater on the second floor of a building in Hell's Kitchen at 52nd and 11th Avenue.
Nice.
And it's so far over there, it literally takes 20 minutes to walk from the train.
Wow.
And it's a great theater and a lovely theater that was started in the 60s when people were giving away spaces for like $1 a year.
Right.
But the theater had fallen on hard times, whatever. And I got there maybe, probably 5 years before and was just sweeping the stage and getting coffee and that kind of shit. And I wrote plays until, one of them was good. And so, like, it was a thing because the theater had not had that kind of attention in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And so we did the show, and like the members were the first people to come because it's a membership theater.
Yeah.
And they would come out like crying. They were so happy. And then the reviewer came, and it was a third stringer from the Times.
Wow.
And then somebody's agent, my director's agent at the time, called the Times up and was like, no, you need to get Mr. Charles Isherwood down here. And so Isherwood came and gave us a good review. And then
which means everything in New York.
Oh yeah, the Times Review is like everything.
That's
everything.
That's nuclear right there.
Right, absolutely. It took it to the next level. And then the word of mouth was apocalyptic. Like it was the word of mouth as much as that review.
Yeah.
And it was also like I said, a 78-seat theater, so not a lot of people could see it. So it had this sort of like off cachet.
Right.
And like so people were just like cramming in, and it was raucous because the show's great in y'all's space, but our space was much smaller,
right?
And it was like it's a little thrustish. It was
sure,
like you can't call it a half thrust, but 2/4 thrust. Like,
so people on multiple sides of the stage, sort of
right,
thing.
and you're like close enough to get the blood on you. And so people were losing their shit, and then the Broadway folks showed up, a couple of them. And the gentleman we ended up working with, Kevin McCullum, had produced Avenue Q.
Oh, right.
And Kevin was like, I had no idea who any of these humans were. They'd like come up to me afterwards in the lobby and be like, "Hey, hey, what's going on? I'm X," and I'd like Google X later, and they'd be like, "Oh, right, okay."
I should have known.
Yeah, no, but it helped because I wasn't nervous, so I could be honest with him. And so I met Kevin, and Kevin asked that all-important question, is the play done? And I was like, no, of course the play isn't done. And that's like the first thing a playwright needs to know, is that when they ask that, you should never say yes. If you say the play is done, you're essentially saying I'm a dickhead and I don't want to collaborate with anyone. So it's just like, even if you think it's done, you know? So, and then like Kevin was like, okay, let's sit down and talk about things. And so we went to his office, and like that was weird, going to his office.
Yeah.
And then like, and then we had a lot of conversations and a lot of notes conversations. It was great and everything was wonderful. And then like the project sat there.
Right.
For like 2 years. It was like, and I was like, I missed my chance. Everything's going away. And then I had to make a change in my management team, in my representational team. And once that happened, we got the off-Broadway run at the Lortel. And the change from 78 seats to 199, and the change from a semi-thrust into a proscenium, and the change from a primarily younger audience to a primarily like middle to older audience.
Right.
And then we did a lot of work turning it from sort of like light farce is not the right thing to say, but toning down some of the farcical elements and bringing up some of the more emotional and disturbing elements.
Right.
And so on all of those things together, we got better reviews across the board for the off version.
Right.
And that's what made the producer pull the trigger.
That's amazing.
And so when I got the call saying, it wasn't a call, we had a meeting.
Right.
And I was sitting there at the across the table with the guy, and he was like, we're going to Broadway. And it was like, cool. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, holy fucking shit, we're going to Broadway.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, thank God I didn't fuck this up.
Yeah. I want to sort of tell some of sort of clue the listeners into some of the themes of this play.
Yeah, sure.
And that's obviously our topic, our theme of our show is largely religious or anti-religious or non-religious or whatever.
Sure. And
your play really delves into that. I mean, and I find it so interesting in a few ways. Your play takes place in a church in Cypress, Texas, where you grew up, your hometown. Lutheran. Yeah. Don't know why Methodist came out. Same thing.
Yeah, totally.
A Lutheran church. There's a pastor. The whole thing sort of largely takes place inside the church, but never in the chapel. In an office space and in a sort of recreational room downstairs.
Yeah.
But it revolves around kind of, and correct me if you see it differently, but to me it seems like one of the main themes is the notion of where the reality of human life kind of butts up against the narrative of the religion. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of like, yes, there are all these rules that all of the characters seem to have some buy-in on in terms of the religious rules. There's a pastor, there's a woman who wants to be very, she says that the thing that's saving her is her devotion to her Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah, totally.
And yet life.
Yeah, and yet life.
So talk about that. Are you still religious now? You grew up in a Lutheran household,
oh yeah, we were. It was the subdivision, I guess, is the little community outside of Houston where I grew up, was a lot of old farmers. It was a lot of old German farmers that had come down from the Panhandle for one reason or the other.
Interesting.
And they had brought that sort of very small town, church is the center of the world idea of culture with them.
Right.
And so that's what I was raised in. And I was I was in the children's choir. My mother had a puppet ministry. And then I ended up preaching for a little while.
And a puppet ministry plays a big role in this play.
Oh, yeah. It's
just, the thing is, I hate talking about this play because anyone who hasn't seen it, there's so many delightful, just really delicious surprises in it.
And they hear puppet and they hear puppet ministry and they think they know what the play is a lot of the time.
Yeah, trust me. You're not going to get Avenue Q, and you're not going to get the Jesus babies or whatever from King of the Hill or whatever.
Yeah,
it's a very much its own world.
Yeah, it's its own thing. And so we did all that, and I did all that, and I was I was always somebody interested in theater and performance,
right?
And there was just no other. There was a community theater called Playhouse 1960 that I would take part in, but like nothing is as captivated or captivating as the machinery of the religion on a Sunday morning. And it has higher stakes. I mean, it just has higher stakes in the way that
they're kind of built in,
right? In the way that the football game is undecided,
right?
And the way that like they have it depends, right? Like a staid country clubbish church, a church that is about participating in a community, as opposed to a church that is interested in a live wire salvation. Is very different. There are stakes in a revival tent that are not there in an Episcopalian church on a Sunday morning.
Right.
So those are very different things. But to get up to specifically your preaching, and like I like to get rowdy. It can get very intense, and that was the thing that always interested me about performance. But dogma fails. Dogma fails again and again and again. And my father passed when I was 16. And most of the bromides of the church, which had been, I don't know, the trappings of it, like it didn't, like the words were there, and that's interesting, and you're given a text, and that's cute, and you sing the songs, and that's fun. Everybody likes that. And then you go through the liturgy, which is like, in some ways, a strange magic spell, for saving everybody, and that's pretty great as well. And then you get to the real brass tacks of the motherfucker, like somebody dies, and like
the rubber has to hit the road, or it's over, game over.
And all the Proverbs shit doesn't work anymore because you were given a list of things to do. You were given a list of rules, and you're given a list of attitudes, poses. Because they don't, like, if you really look at things like the book of Ecclesiastes, it's a dark book.
Yeah.
It is a book that's concerns are the failure of human effort. And it is in the religious text, but it is glossed over.
Right.
And it might be one of the things that needs to be highlit, that needs to be raised up more than any other, because it sits right next to a cause and effect, believe, and you will be celebrated prosperity gospel bullshit idea. But it's like, no. And that approach is like more of the utility of the religion is to have multiple of these voices. The epic's value is it says all things and contradicts itself in the way that the world and human experience says all things and contradicts itself.
Right.
At some point, the epic's desire is to take all the world and shrink it into language.
Yeah.
Right? And the Bible almost coming together haphazardly is one of our truer epics, because it is voices over millennium.
Right.
Yelling in different languages about specific times that are braided together through almost nothing but poetic rhyme of image. And it is this intense object that one can read like tea leaves or the fucking Ching.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, you're a kid and your dad dies and you've got idiots, like really, really stupid men who have, grown up in a specific religious tradition and a specific, American brand of Christianity and a certain like seminary instruction, and they're saying God has a plan for everyone, and you're like, you can go fuck yourself.
Right.
You have nothing to say to grief. You awful human. Like, you don't know. You have no idea what you're talking about right now. Even if you have gone through terrible griefs, whatever you're saying is insufficient right now.
Right. It's my experience of religious approach. The religious approach to grief is almost always an end run around it.
Yeah.
It's an attempt to dodge the grief rather than to actually deal with, confront, or God forbid, actually feel it.
Right. And the services that you go to, these the memorial services, at least the churches that I grew up going to, are just awful. They're just garbage because they say one thing. The pastor, and you're supposed to be excited the pastor's there, and the pastor had one or two conversations with the dead person, and they just recount one or two conversations. And maybe they tell a humorous anecdote, and they say, but, they loved God, and then they launch into a fucking sermon, and you're like, no, what are we doing? There is give me a pyre.
Yeah.
Let us make a ritual. Let us wail like Sicilian women on the beach. Where is the moment that we all get together and say they're gone? Because we don't do it.
Yeah.
We ignore the loss because of the eventual salvation. I don't know. Some Christian sects don't, but the way that Americans practice is really psychologically damaging.
I agree with that. I mean, when I go to, I'm from Utah. I was raised LDS. When I go to a Mormon funeral, yeah, it's all about we should be joyful because we will see this person again. And none of it's about, well, fuck, we don't get to see this person ever again in the only life that we really know.
And it's supposed to deny your sadness.
Yeah.
Don't tell me not to be sad, you cocksucker.
Right.
My dad just died. Don't you tell me God has a fucking plan and I need to ignore these fucking feelings. You can go fuck yourself.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And I'm just not into it. So also it fucked me up. You know what I mean? And I spent a lot of years not feeling those things and drinking my way through it. And that was a really great way to waste money and years of my life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
and then all you got to do is distill it into a play that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also got me a Tony nomination. That's good.
I suppose that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Do you have a religious side of you now?
I mean, I went through a hardcore atheist phase after I preached after my dad passed because it was a great way to performatively work through some of that stuff. So I'd get up on stage and fucking emote and then, do an altar call. And, that is whatever that is. But then I went to Baylor, which is a Baptist university. And then, it's mandatory church and mandatory religious stuff. And it's also oh my God, it's the worst of the high money Texas religious. It is the fucking worst. And it's all Dallas debutantes and anyway, whatever. It is what it is, right? And I was probably the most abrasive version of myself there. I'm fairly well reconstructed, so that tells you what the journey was like. Yeah, so I was a really, really abrasive, you can go fuck yourself atheist at the time. And then, I got out of Texas. Mm-hmm. My first play was a very aggressive religious allegory because I'd always been there's a part in the liturgy where I think it's, which one of the creeds is it? Apostles' Creed? Where it says that Jesus died and descended into hell, and the third day he rose again. So I wrote this play about Jesus in hell for 3 days with the devil. And
interesting.
And it's about, it's set as a prison love story. Yeah, so that we had a lot of fans at Baylor.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure that did very well.
Well, it did what I wanted it to.
I'll bet.
They wouldn't cast me, so I was like, fuck you, I'm going to take your stage. I'm a vindictive motherfucker, but I do it in writing. And then I left and went to New York, and I, was so used to just kicking against things that were no longer there.
Oh, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was all of a sudden nobody was trying to make me go to chapel, and I was like, oh, you can get liquor now. And they were like, bro, you need to calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
You ain't yelling at nobody that's her. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't.
I love it.
And they were like, so the thing changed.
And you had space. to be whoever you wanted to be.
A lot of space. And I got to thinking about it, and I got to think about sort of the comfort elements. You know, I got to think about, like, the importance it has to my mother and to those small communities when there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And to, like elements of comfort in the songs, an element of comfort in some of the proverbs. Just because they failed me didn't mean they failed everybody.
Right. And
I sort of got to this place, and I'm there recently, and it's less... The anger on the events of my youth, specifically those events, are still there. But the fascination with what it is has taken over more and more, and just sort of delight in how bizarre it is.
I'm with you, man. That's
right?
Where the juice is, right?
Right. And like almost like I want to know why. Like, why is the wrong word? Like, I'm interested in the way that the false changes the real. And I'm interested in the way that the story that we live in changes the actual reality around us.
I love it.
Because that's number one, it's sexy as fuck.
Yeah.
But number two, it's also what we do in a hyper-narrative environment. Like, we are constantly changing the shape of the world with the stories we're telling about it.
Can I?
Yeah, bro.
I'm going to circle back to the play itself.
Yeah,
because one of the things that I love about your play is that, the temptation for a lot of playwrights or a lot of writers who are reacting as you have against a religious upbringing and sort of the bullshit of religion. Mm-hmm. You don't slam religion in this play.
Oh, hell no.
I mean, I suppose a religious person could see it another way because you sort of bookend it with two monologues that sort of tell a narrative that implies that, Jesus and the religion was sort of a man-made creation.
Yeah, I think a lot of really smart religious folks don't hate that, though.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
But a lot of less smart religious folks totally hate that.
Yeah, totally.
But you've got a play that it takes place in a church, involves sex with a minor.
Yeah.
But not the pastor. That was an interesting choice.
Yeah,
I kind of liked that. But it involves sex and sort of debauchery, or what religious people would consider debauchery. Mm-hmm. Never once does it say the church is bad, or the church is wrong, or this is the fault of the church.
No.
It says that the church might have some complicity, or in sort of pushing people in the wrong directions or something.
Yeah.
But I think that's fascinating. Was that a conscious choice, or did this flow from you just as you were, and that's just sort of where you happened to be?
I think that the choice specifically not to make the pastor a villainous character was very specific. Was like I'm just not. Also, I've seen that play.
Yeah.
Like, I know villainous pastors, and we have more than enough narratives about, fiddling priests that we don't. I mean, we get it. Yeah. Little boys get touched, and like that's a fucking tragedy. But that's not my point of contact with the thing that is called religion.
Right.
I want a thing that is true to my experience.
Yeah.
And what is true to my experience is that there were a lot of people who tried to love on me.
Yeah.
And including my mother and, people in the church. And like, as much as I have anger at a lot of them, like a lot of them are really genuinely trying to do the best within the time and place that they are.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, good is impossible. Good is impossible. Like, in this world, number one, to know what it is. Number two, to do it. Number three, to do it effectively on a large scale.
Right.
So when humans undertake that project
of goodness,
it should be honored from a sincere place. The motherfucker who's trying to put your money in their pocket, suspicion. If you fucking little kids, suspicion. But there are humans that are genuinely inside the machine trying desperately to make it do its fucking job.
Right.
You know? And though they may be thwarted by the problem that is hierarchy, though they be thwarted by the thing that is time and a misunderstanding or a culture, they are trying to do good. And that must be honored at some point.
Preach.
Yeah, boo-boo.
I like it.
I'll do it.
Man, so one other question. So you've seen productions of this play now all over the country at this point. You're in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, man.
Did you see I'm aware that there was a production in Houston, which is right near Cyprus, which is totally. That's sort of your home turf.
Yeah, man.
What did you think of like how did Houston respond to your view of them?
I mean, like, I think, I mean, there's a lot of things to like factor in and talk about because it's a success, right?
Yeah.
And theater goers are by and large a self-selecting crowd.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to get like my mom's pastor.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And the Mormons didn't come to Book of Mormon when it came here, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is not to say we don't have religious folks coming.
Sure.
It's just to say that, like, Houston, the theatrical community was very excited to be able to do it, and very excited that somebody speaking specifically about that area and about the issues in that area had done it with humor, you know?
Did people approach you and say this was a catharsis for them? There's
a lot of humans that have like seen the show and been like, oh wow, this is true to my experience, or like, you know, my dad died, or I was in a Christian puppet ministry, or fuck Jesus. Like, I get it's a great thing about like the play is like, not to say loose enough, but the play like is fighting didacticism actively in every scene. And like the play is not didactic enough for people to approach it and access it where they're at. Whether like if all they want to see is puppets fucking, they see puppets fucking, and if they want to like hear only the first and last monologues, the epilogue and the prologue, they hear the epilogue and the prologue, and if they want to see like human love and forgiveness, they see that. So that's fun.
Yeah,
like I'm into that.
Yeah, this play does have a lot of whatever you bring to it.
Yeah, man. Like it's a thing. It's like the most honest thing I can make or have made up to this point, I think.
I love it.
Who knows?
I love it. It truly is an extraordinary play. Thanks, man. I adore that I get to be a part of it.
Thanks, man. I'm glad you get to do it too. You're fucking great in it.
Well, thank you.
No, my pleasure.
Hey, Rob, thanks so much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure,
Really
man.
appreciate it.
No, I dig it.
It's been a pleasure to meet you, man.
Awesome, bro.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Huh?
Yeah, Dan.
Interesting guy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed our talk.
Well done.
Yeah, really fun. Anyway, thanks to Robert Askins so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks to if you guys want to write in, if you have anything you need to say about Mr. Askins or anything we've had on the show, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you can call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Indeed. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
And while you're there, you can search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It's a closed group, which means it protects your privacy.
Right.
And but we'll let you in.
We will. And the people that will probably let you in are the people that I have to thank right now. The very, very sweet and kind Sarah, Amy, and Danny.
And thanks, of course, to Mackenzie for all of the posts that she does daily on Facebook.
She's amazing. She is also amazing.
Yeah,
genuinely great.
Kind of wonderful.
And
thanks to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their music.
Yeah, and to Gordon Johnston for the use of his. And thank you, dear listener, for tuning in. We sure do appreciate it when you do.
Bye!